One final series to close out this weekend's Heroes Global Championship. And as sad as it is to leave you guys for a whole nother week, we'll be back on Friday after it. But even still, this is going to be a good series. Superstars versus Roll20. Roll20 so far has not dropped a game. They have been extremely commanding of Part 2. They are sitting at 9-0 so far, and they would love to make it a 12-0.
And so we would like to invite you guys into the minigame that is, will Roll20 lose a game against Superstars? And I feel like join us in the adventure that is going to unfold. And in fact, I feel like I didn't do the math on this one, but this has got to be the longest win streak to exist in competitive HGC, or in HGC NA at least, that we have ever seen. I mean, quite handily so.
Yeah.
I feel like the farthest has got to be like 6 or 7 wins. So the fact that we're already at 9 and that they're in a projected, you know, a pretty big upper hand series like this against a team like Superstars, they might be able to set a record for a long while.
And their next series is even in death. Just the fact that they're able to start off.
Prepped.
Yeah, start off with, who did they play very first? Was it Freedom, or did they play
They took
Tempo
out Freedom first.
Yeah, Freedom and then Tempo, getting those first 3 zeros with the surprise factor of Garrosh. Looking good. Let's look at the standings and see the result of their progress, because they started out this part in the number 4 position. They're all the way up at number 2 now, and with a win would tie Gale Force Esports. Granted, Roll20 after this series will have played 2 series more than Gale Force. Honestly, the bulk of their work is already over. They defeated Tempo. They defeated Team Freedom in 1 weekend. They even talked about that.
Yeah, Gale Force is at the state where it's like, just don't feed, you know, don't run it down is all they have to do, and a lot of their work is done. Same with Roll20, though, because of those victories that they have and being able to get those out of the way. They're now in a situation where it's just like, don't suck, you know, avoid any major misplay going into your opponents here, and it's nice, you know. It's one of those ones where you almost feel like you're like, well, that's not fair, but you're like, but they won the series that they were supposed to let this happen. So it's it's almost like a get your popcorn and let's just see how Roll20 pulls this out.
But meanwhile, Superstars promised that they would bring some interesting strategies to Roll20, and Superstars is at a point where they really need to get any game victories they can, because they are currently tied in series wins versus Lag Force. Let's get into this series. Let's hear from our teams, Superstars versus Roll20.
For this week, we think Garrosh is a priority hero, but we also have some counters prepared for him in case other teams start early picking him against us. Superstars are subbing out Stray right now for Daihu, but it doesn't look to change their performance overall. They lost to Lag Force last week, so they just still are the same overall. And Yoda's probably their best player. He's been performing maybe even better since we kicked him from the team, so he'd be the person to look out for the most.
Roll20 looked extremely strong last weekend, taking out top contenders Tempo Storm and Team Freedom, Rio in both matches. I think one of the things that makes their team extremely strong with Garrosh being released is that they have the best Medivh player in North America on their team, which is Glarong. And Medivh is strong against Garrosh, but you have to ban Medivh against Roll20. So they basically just get a free Garrosh pick every single time, and Justin showed what happens when that happens. I would say over the break, they definitely improved a lot as a team, but the Garrosh definitely helped Garrosh situation.
Yoda in the unfortunate position of having to play versus his old teammates in Roll20, but there's a lot of respect from all the members of Roll20 toward Yoda. And there should be a lot of respect toward his Malthael, which I hope we'll get to see versus that Garrosh.
Yeah, it would be a really cool matchup, especially with the hype of Justin and onto the Roll20 and, you know, the old standing kind of rivalry-ish between the two. It's a little bit harder to claim it of a rivalry due to the lack of success the Superstars has had. But Yoda, I feel like, and high praise coming out from Prismat, is a really cool thing to hear. The fact that he was willing to even admit maybe Yoda's even outperforming after stepping away from Roll20. That's a pretty, you know, big words to say about another competitor.
Yeah, it is to get to hear that. But Yoda always is willing, it seems like, to be able to give out the praise, dish out the praise where it is due. Both these teams getting a lot of praise. Let's take a look at our cheers before we get into the series, starting with Superstars. There's where Rambo's been dropping his cheers.
We know where the dollars of Rambo version 1 is. We're still yet to identify Rambo version 2. Use Garbo made a visit here for Superstars.
That name every time.
I find it interesting to decide which ones they end up investing into. You know, maybe there is an entire market into the world of cheers that we're missing out. There might be a commentary job down here. There's a lot of things going on with the stacks. The fact that Rambo's the one committed to Superstars and EU's Garbo supporting the Superstars, I find it very interesting on the names and which ones are contributing to which teams.
You would look for the patterns in that. We've got Roll20 up next. Craters at the top of that. A lot of cheers for Roll20. They are one of the top cheered for teams out of the North American teams. Makes sense. Them and Tempo Storm and Gale Force Esports, all these big fan favorite teams, because they have maintained their spots near the top of the standings for the entire year.
I think it'll be a really big tell the day that one of the top 3 teams, in fact, is not one of the most cheered for. I'm going to find that it will be really surprising to be that big of a fan favorite, but then not be there in terms of placing and stuff like that. That'll be cool to look forward to. I'm honestly amazed that so many teams have been able to pass Tempo Storm for how long they have sat at their name at the top half of North America, and to be only 3rd in terms of the cheers seems a little bit, a little bit less of what I expected from them.
Everyone loves a good underdog story.
Yeah, Tempo Storm's got to start theirs at the cheers and a little bit through the standings too in North America. I guess that's more true in-game than maybe I'd aimed for at first, but...
Well, there you go. We've got game 1 ready between Superstars and Roll20. It'll take place on Brax's Holdout, chosen by Superstars. You know what I'm thinking of. SS Hosty. I'm ready. That was the ship horn.
It was the ship horn, and that was a very good, arm flex. She had the animation, the whole thing. The old, we're going in. Yeah, the SS Hosty. I don't think that's going to be the case. That we see it come out, but maybe it will be. It will be a different version. Daihu's still playing with them.
How does really? Oh.
I learned that as I'm staring at the lobby.
Well, everything I wrote down is now a lie. I thought that Stray would be back for the series.
I thought we had Stray back for the series too. Done goofed. Brax's Holdout. The draft's ready.
Let's get into it. How would the aerial changes affect a possible Cho'Gall here?
It would make Empathetic Link a lot stronger because at level 7 you no longer have to go into the cooldowns. It would make it to where, honestly, it's better. I think it's better. I'm pretty confident it's better than it was before because of the fluctuation at the level 7. Granted, the Cho'Gall did gain a lot of benefits out of having the spam out of the heal over the long run.
Yeah.
It essentially makes it less killing opportunities or lethal opportunities into killing the Cho'Gall, which is always nice knowing that 2 players depend on it. But flexing the level 7 and the Reservoir of Hope value you would gain, which is already viable now without Cho'Gall,
right.
I'd say it's a pretty cool adjustment. First pick, Chromie. You said Roll20 would be the team who did it. You're right. You nailed it. Go ahead and
I did it.
You won the mini game of life. For anybody who doesn't know what she's celebrating, in the last series we talked about how Chromie has risen in power in North America, and I said something about I was surprised at how often it's happened. Is it as high as being willing to be first picked by Space Station? And she confidently said Roll20 would be the only team willing to first pick a Chromie. And today, she's proven right, but only today.
Only today.
I can only forfeit.
I only get this one day.
Only a day.
It makes sense on Brax's Holdout, though, where she already had a lot of favor, even before all of a sudden everyone is a Chromie team and likes to play Chromie. Because she is so good at being able to slow down any death pushes in a lane, and allows you to have a lot of fluid rotations with only having potentially her plus a support holding down that lane. But Superstars draft a double global with Falstad and Vahaka.
Garrosh there? I feel like it's got to be a Garrosh here for Roll20. It's just, what else do they want to pair with it? The Chromie and Garrosh have been the 1-2 for them every single time they have played Tomb of the Spider Queen. They have picked Garrosh in every single game but one before the secondary ban phase, or at least had influence into their draft, even making it the one game where it didn't. It got banned in the secondary ban phase against Lag Force, so it's very likely we see that. It's just whether or not the Uther is worth their time. Also, on the note of the Falstad Dahaka, the double global of Superstars is going to allow them to play a pretty flexible laning situation. Very needed for a map like Brax's Holdout. But the Chromie is kind of a pause button on that good old 2-1-2 that they have already indicated on picking up. So it seems strange to pick that into the first pick Chromie that we got so hyped over.
The only reason I could see, if we see something that's different than the Warrior plus support here, I think it's just because
they don't
as I say that, they get Uther and ETC. See, I almost wonder if they came out of the gates with Garrosh just because their favored was actually ETC. And it was a lot more about like an initial scare, or even like a, we're so strong with this hero that you have to start giving us Medivh again, or like it's just a playing with food type of thing.
I do agree with you that that was a factor that went into the priority of the Garrosh for the members of Roll20. It's something that teams that Glorong has been on in the past have done, where they're comfortable flexing, you know, his heroes up front to hopefully draw out fans, and it still to this day is a semi-true statement. You know, look at the Medivh. Granted, Medivh might be a bigger problem than just Glorong and the members of Roll20, but you are correct. That is something there. I just didn't know if it would be big enough for me to say that was the only reason. I still thought we would still see a trend of Garrosh and still continue to see it picked up. I don't mind it that it isn't that much. I am still torn on where does he exactly fall, and ETC is something that I am confident does deserve a slot before the secondary ban phase. So
ETC is also very flexible. He could still build into stage dive. And on that note, there is one time where we've seen Goku play ETC. So there's a possibility,
you are
maybe, that they still bring in another warrior. Because Dahaka's already been taken, and that was when we saw it before too, is he wanted to have a global top laner, a global solo laner. And we'll see. Rhaegar ban though for Roll20 makes sense. They already have their Uther. And the Zeratul ban for Superstars, trying to remove some of the pseudo globals, especially with the Falstad pickup now. Falstad doesn't want to have to be worried about where's the Zeratul sharking around.
What do we see Superstars want to pick up for their next two picks? Into the Chromie, you have to consider the laning situations. I'm already scared. Like, I'm trying to find a way. How can we see Superstars hold their own over the laning phase without worrying about the Dahaka laning mismatch up that could happen in the next two picks out of Roll20, but also deal with the Chromie into the 4. They decide they're going to go with the Dahaka, or excuse me, a Greymane and a new Barak. Doesn't seem to be answering a lot of the question I'm posing, but I mean, it's not like those are poor heroes by any means. Pretty S tier compared to the others of the role.
Final two picks for Roll20, somebody to hang out with Dahaka, possibly Falstad in the top lane. It's all about what Goku wants to play there, unless he's playing ETC. Dahaka makes me think Malthael.
I want Malthael, and then I want, what else do we have? Who's going to be the executioner? Chromie, she's pretty neat, but she doesn't maybe get the job done to the extent that I would like to see. Somebody else with a bit more reliable DPS lock it down. Or again, give us the old bamboozle. Send Goku over. Garrosh gets picked up. Worlds are converted. I am very surprised that this pick rotation and the pick rotation, ban rotation before that, were not huge adjustments in terms of Roll20 and the strengths and things that they are interested in and like to pick, and the actual like amount of time that it took them. There was no adjustment, and it took them a lot of time for being the confident team to being the upper dog, you know, here, not considered the underdog.
Murden and Malthael makes this a very melee composition, which seems to be just a general trend.
We see the Lucio as a response to the Malthael.
Tormented Souls.
It's just going to be a continuous trend.
That's a trend I'm excited about. I love that.
I agree. I'm surprised that it took them, you know, the changes to the Lucio now and the Malthael. He fell out so far, and now suddenly he's got a little home as an answer to Malthael. I feel like this is still a pretty big setback draft-wise, though, when looking at Superstars here in this game. They don't have any bad picks. I just don't see them have any major selling point either in terms of their comp. And if you're struggling the way the Superstars are and need these games as much as you need them, I expected a little bit more craziness from them, or at least trying to do something to catch Roll20 off guard. I didn't feel like at any point they were kind of like we would like to take this away from you, Roll20, you know, other than maybe the Medivh. And again, that's not even a Roll20 problem anymore. Like, Medivh actually might just be first take, first ban out of all of NA.
And I think maybe why you're a little more surprised that it wasn't Strange is because Superstars came into the series knowing that they were going to have the first Battleground choice.
Yeah.
So they were able to take some time and think about which Battleground would be best suited for them to try to get that guaranteed first victory. Chose Brax's holdout, but then past a double global, which I feel like is probably the best, most defining feature of their
that is the defining feature
composition.
as a double global
Yeah.
comp. And it's not even like it was a wild double global at all. It's just like a, you know, everybody's run double global. It's not even a double global with a backdooring shrine controller. Like, that would make more sense. If the Muradin was the higher priority afterwards, I'd be like, I see where you're going with this. It was just like a, we like our globals, and then it was just like the draft's going to happen.
I wonder if, on the topic of the backdooring of shrines, if Muradin is going to be played by Glaurung then, since he traditionally or typically plays those roles. He plays the Zeratul, the cloaked heroes from that. If he'll play Muradin, and then that way we still get Goku's Malthael in the top lane soloing, and then ETC, gotta be justing ETC unless it were to be the solo lane, and we know that Malthael should be in that role.
I'd assume it is the Glaurung Muradin, as you said. I can see an argument when looking at a step back for Roll20 in the long run. Should that be the laning situations that they want, or should Goku be more of that guy? You know, there might be an argument into that, but for this game specifically, I would assume the same, that Glaurung's going to be on a Muradin.
Let's get into game number 1 on Brax's Holdout. Superstars takes on Roll20. With Roll20 hoping they can get a 3-0 clean sweep.
A clean sweep, as they have been able to do so for all of Phase 2 of North American HGC. But first is Superstars. Hosties on the Falstad, Yoda on the Greymane, we had Daihu on New Barak, Iacona on that Lucio, and last is Urho on the Dahaka.
And over in the red, currently 9-0 in games. Glaurung playing Muradin, Justing playing ETC, Goku playing Malthael. After that, Chromie played by Prismaticism, and Buzz will be on Uther. This is Roll20 esports.
Season Markman is a choice for Superstars at level 1, so expected to be matching into the side lanes and side soak consistently into that Malthael. If you see the Gathering Storm, you generally don't necessarily mean that they have to be a part of the 4-man, but it is far more likely.
Glaurung anchoring for his Malthael solo laner, who's playing very safely in the lane. And as we expected, it's going to be the support plus Chromie in the bottom lane. But there's a change up from Superstars in the way that they're laning. They have Dahaka in the bottom, and then Falstad in the top as these 2 globals, and then they have a 3-man potential gank squad rotating around.
So this is an old school strategy. If you don't play the double globals in the same lane, then you're using them for the side soak, and your core 3 are going to go off and, you know, really wreak havoc over the map. Awesome thought process from the members of Superstars, but there is something kind of missing here when looking towards those 3 specifically. The Lucio, the Anubarak, and Greymane don't really have as good of kill potential as you maybe would hope. It's not terrible. It could be worse, right? Anubarak Greymane is pretty solid. Lucio's a little lackluster. It's no Malfurion Uther, but it'll get the job done. So it's how much can we see Superstars make happen with those 3.
But they do have pretty good siege, as evidenced by taking out both of the towers, and Superstars are not finding somebody to immediately take out. Just rotate up and get both towers before Roll20 can respond.
So far, they're holding their own here with the laning scenario, but you need more than just a one flicker of a rotation before your opponent's on a map like Brax's Holdout. You need continuous ones, as Guildforce Esports has shown many a times. 10 seconds before the first shrine phase, and it's a bit of a stalemate here. Gilly, everybody's enjoying their half the map, and they're really enjoying those shrubs.
Yeah, Roll20 did swap out who was where. Malthael no longer in the bottom, so that he can go up against Dahaka. That's ideal for Malthael than trying to deal with the Falstad, who has the range on him. Roll20 now sends Uther and Chromie up so that Chromie can try to continually pressure out the Falstad in the lanes, and in having Buds and Justing up at the top, Glaurung trying to stop Superstars from stealing away this camp.
And he's going to be able to do so. Power slide onto Yoda, and he's going to disengage away the knockback and impale Prismat,
no.
though. Guy can see through time. He knows where you're going to be. He finds you. He finds a new Barak. And Urho, you better hope he doesn't find that bug, because that would be another kill, a triple possibly, and he does. The guy is just ridiculous on that Chromie.
Proving why Roll20 is a team that might first pick a Chromie. He's been playing Chromie for a long time.
Since release.
Yeah, he's the first one to really start picking up the Chromie, and they're the first team to start drafting it fairly consistently in HGC North America. So he has all that practice over his opponents. Probably the best Chromie in North America.
Probably the best Chromie in North America, and he just flaunted it right up there. on that invade. For a moment, I was going to be like, on that initiation, the fact that Glarong, he's displayed twice already, a little bit of lack of comfort into the Murden. You just looked at the screen in absolute awe. What am I looking at?
Dragon's Eye.
Dragon's Eye.
That's not a Prismat talent.
Sometimes you astound me, Gilly.
I just got so
want you to know.
excited.
You just, the fact that that's enough to rustle the old jimmies, it's not that you're in the wrong.
It's I'm going to rephrase how I was going to say that. It's a happy surprise.
Three-man W from Prismat with no setup there into that hard crowd control. The indicator that Roll20 was going to be able to win the fight was that thing landing. And they win it. They've got the Zerg Rush on bottom. Hosty is on the wrong side of this. The barrel roll, it dodges both the crowd controls. And with that Stormbolt not connecting, I do want to note that that is between Dwartos and Stormbolts. Glarong is showing a, I want to use the word confidence, but that would be a little bit bold. He's just not respecting Superstars at all. And it hasn't punished him yet, but I think it could in the future. And so Roll20 might need to reel that back a little bit here as they move forward. But I guess not while that Zerg Rush is live.
Nope, Solo Laner's chilling in the top. ETC did go for Echo Paddle. Will help out with more of the clear. But Roll20 is continuing on. As long as they've got this healthy Zerg Rush, they want to take more structures. They want to get further ahead. They already have that level advantage. And with Goku coming in, it's entirely possible that they're going to get aggressive even past this front wall.
Big Flask thrown over, but without the 7, it's really not gaining too much value for Yoda. He eats a Stormbolt. Glarong's going to door toss, split pressure onto Hosey. Barrel roll away. Iacona giving him movement speed. He boops, but it doesn't matter. Falstat's dead. Zerg Rush still up there. 10k HP and trickling down. The keep is the focus, and it's going to drop here. Roll20 just making things happen throughout game number 1 on Brax's holdout. Accumulating 2 entire levels, not just like a, you know, we use the level leads early game as kind of like a, their number is higher than their opponents and it's usually one whole bar apart. This is a flat 2 level. That is ridiculous.
Yeah, very rarely seen. Do you have that 2 level lead prior to 10 this early on? But that shows the dominance of Roll20, responding and figuring out the setup for laning for Superstars, getting 6 kills to 0, and having the strong Zerg Rush and taking advantage of that. We're now going to spot out Superstars, trying to once again steal the same camp. Superstars loves their camp invades.
They cannot fail this one, otherwise 10s will be picked up for the members of Roll20. Daihu, Bro charges away. Goku wants it, he knows.
Stormbolt.
Paul sets down, boss starts. Roll20 will be able to get this boss. This is a smart and kind of convenient call considering the rotation, purely based on the fact that Superstars will not be able to contest this if Roll20 clicks up the 10s. They did start it a bit too soon though, and this is punishable only for a small second. The fact that Roll20's taken this boss is a huge misplay.
Arrow comes in from the side, power slide hits, Daihu burrow charges on top of Bud's boss, stolen, actually taken by Roll20. Tormented Souls now comes in thanks to the first kill. Roll20 get a second. Hammer of Justice catches Airho and as Glarong jumps in, he body blocks, and they take a 3rd kill. That was an insanely risky play for Roll20, but thanks to the first kill giving them heroic abilities, they were still able to make it happen.
Normally what you see a team like Roll20 do in those situations where you're like, okay, trickle down experience, we'll get the 10, they can't fight us, and then you start killing the boss. Once it's at 25%, you're like, okay, this isn't going to add up in the same manner that we want to. You pull away from it, you force the retrigger, and Superstars then takes free damage, and then you convert the fight after. You force them to take that 25% damage remaining. And without doing that and still winning the fight, it worked out here for Roll20, but just trying to highlight what you normally see teams do in those situations and why what the thought process of Roll20 was essentially giving Superstars debatably the last fight of this game that they're going to be on even footing.
Double Warriors taking the Shrines with ETC with the stage dive now, switching over to being the split soak against the Dahaka. Now that they have a global, Goku is able to stick with the rest of the team. Justin gets dragged in, saving the life of Air, who got fairly low in health. And now the rest of Superstars is coming in to try to catch Justin and give them some experience to get back into this game.
He can stage dive out. They burned all their cooldowns. Oh, wait a minute. Forgot about the Lucio there. Not even going to go down, though. Not even getting the stage dive. The rest of the members of Roll20 are here. They're here with the hype train. You know, go ahead, throw down the horn. This is the safe train of Justing. The members of Roll20 are all on it.
They had both of the beacons. They didn't even send all of their members down to save Jesting. Just enough. Goku was taking a camp. He's like, you guys got this. This is fine. I'm just going to stay here and hang out with the Raven camp. So now there's a camp plus all of the Zerg trying to take down the final keep of Superstars. Superstars still don't have heroic abilities.
This could be game.
It could be.
8 minutes and 36 seconds. Stage dive. Goku goes with the Tormented Souls. Nobody goes down yet. Actually, even Iakono with a beautiful boop saving Hosty. So, Superstars, they'll at least get the heroics.
They will.
Not a sentence you typically say is a positive thing, but they in fact will.
I have seen a game here in NA HGC on Braxis Holdout where heroics were not grabbed.
Looks like it'll be a different tale here today. Roll20 not posturing up enough, or at least aggressively enough to be able to get away with the game here. And now the punishment. Daihu goes in. He's going to go down.
He does die, but so does HGC. Cocoon's been dealt with by the members of Roll20. Isolation has hit Goku. He still doesn't have Tormented Souls, but with that Reaper's Mark constantly applying and the healing debuff to Haka, he goes down, and Dragon's Breath. There's still the Guardians left as the Siege of the Core begins.
The Siege of the Core will begin. Malthael and Chromie, not necessarily your core killing champions here, but I don't know if it's going to change the outcome of this game. 8 seconds before Gust is there. It will. They will get the save.
Respawn timer is far too short.
Oh, please fly behind them and gust them into your core. Oh, this would be such a brilliant punch. Hey!
Dun, 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 dun. Not quite into the core.
Yeah, that wasn't the direction I was hoping to see.
Stage show back in.
All right.
Hosty died.
Now we're back onto the core. It's like a reset button, really, for both of the teams.
52% is the core. But in only getting Falstad, Roll20 finally will give up the Ghost for now and just back off. They were low on mana, very low on mana. They'll move back. 13 to 11, 48% before the shield will finally start to go up. It's a difficult point for Superstars here on Braxis Holdout, but at least they have the double global. The double global is going to be very necessary in trying to keep the catapults at bay now.
With 48% damage on your core, you've got to be thanking the heavens that a Malthael and a Chromie exists on the other side. If there was any person who is even remotely decent at sieging, you can Divine Shield all in 5 versus 5, even at 11 minutes into the game and not care. It's still very sketchy for Superstars here. They cannot mess up at any point in time. This game is still very much in control. Roll20 calculated risked up on top with those deaths. They were willing to take that for this 50% damage trade. So just need to bring it back here. And once Superstars get themselves to 13, pick a fight. But more importantly, pick a fight that isn't anywhere near their half of the map. Wall catapults are off the core. I know I'm asking for a lot here, but you know, Superstars, you need a lot.
When your core is at 48% and you've lost both of the keeps already,
it makes sense that list gets longer.
The mountain gets taller.
Oh, man. Roll20's looking to climb it together. Buds comes in, preps with the Hammer of Justice. Urho's going to leave. Hosty comes in, drops himself a Gust.
There's a boss available for Roll20 if they want to go that route now.
And with the Gust gone, it makes a lot of sense. If that Gust wasn't used, suddenly this boss, because death timers are short enough, it's not worth the risk. Now, it is.
Especially Mercenary Camp still in the bottom. They know that that's being cleared out. Take that out, get the beacons behind, move forward with the boss, have the Zerg rush behind them if necessary to win the game off of that. It's maybe taken longer than Roll20 would like, but they're still setting up in a way for them to be able to win the game. It's up to Superstars to figure out now how they can stop that.
Well, Urho opening with the brush stock. Daihu on his way out. He met with a Storm Bolt. Tormented Souls coming out from Goku. Buds is in a hot pursuit. Look at that, man. He's just the lone Uther. He's going to prep this. Prismat throws out the rotation. There's a stun. There's the Frisbee. Sadly, the Burning Rage was not enough to let Buds be the real MVP here, as we know typically support players are.
Superstars did slow down Roll20 from getting both of the beacons for now, but there's still the boss.
Out of all the things in the day for you to throw on my face, you're not going to go ahead and throw that one? I just said all supports are typically the MVP, and you're just going to casually scroll over it. You know what?
I agree.
That was, without a doubt, textbook moment where Gilly goes, really, Dreth? Really? Really? And you're just going to let that one roll through.
Supports are pretty good.
I mean, We all need them, but to embrace and appreciate them, that is a different story.
You've taught me well, senpai.
Roll20.
Oh.
Oh gosh. It's got 100% Zerg Rush. They have a camp on bottom. They got a camp on top. They've got a 16 talent here. They've got the world in their hands. The question is, do they want to, you know, just kind of, it's an Atlas Shrug situation here. The question is Atlas going to Shrug? And it feels like it will.
Cloud just goes into Avatar until the cocoon can be broken for Buds.
On the core is going to be an ETC.
And the rest keeping Superstars from responding to him. Slowing Sands is behind this air hole, but Prismaticism and the rest of Roll20 are on their way. There's the stage dive, 10% and 0. Superstars unfortunately loses game number 1. Their first game, their battleground choice, but Roll20 goes up now, 10 games
Bumping
and 0 losses.
The double digits for Roll20 in terms of win streak now. Whew. Whew. It's getting heated. That last game, to be honest, was absolutely dominant from their end. And if they keep this up, we might find a situation where that would be, what, 12 games in a row? Roll20, man. Breaking records left and right in HGC North America. I don't really actually have a formal record they've broken before. So, in fact, that was an untrue statement. But sorry, sometimes I say something and I realize it's not true, and I have a hard time leaving everybody at home going, well, I am the absolute law of truth. And in fact, whatever Dredd said, it is true. And so I immediately correct myself because I feel morally obligated to everyone at home. And then I walk away with 40-second tangents.
Weren't you the one who was just telling me, like, whatever we say up here is law?
And
You just gotta go. We are the experts. I don't know what.
Experts are angry. You know, the worst part was we did that in synchronization, and somebody has a screenshot of that now. We goofed.
Let's get us off the camera for now. Let's talk about Goku and Yoda.
Okay.
Goku replacing Yoda on Roll20 after the mid-season brawl. Yoda going to Superstars, but both of these players have a ton of respect in the community for their work ethic. Yoda came into HGC for the first time in the top 8 of North America. Goku had been on teams here or there, but his success with Superstars and the swap of these players prompted everyone to wonder where the heck Goku would go when he left Superstars the mid-season brawl.
Yeah, it's a weird circumstance where Yoda, because of the, you know, the youth that he had coming in the roster of Roll20, and Roll20 standing out amazingly. And then Goku had been on so many teams, but everybody's like, the guy's got potential, but we don't know how good he is. And I feel like the thing here to note is that when Goku went to Roll20, it's a bigger statement, the fact that he didn't just go a Yoda replacement, he's fulfilling the shoes, trailblazing his own direction that he wants to take it for the roster. And so that lack of failure is such an insane respect moment for, you know, Goku, and even busting out in interviews as we saw last week. That's the level of confidence this kid's getting.
Yeah, I've been really excited, or I was really excited to have Goku there for our interview. He's been doing a lot more of the pregame interviews too, but for him, they're at 10-0, and let's see if they can make it 11-0. Where are we going for game number 2?
Battlefield of Eternity.